If you don't have a congregational meeting booklet, there are some available in the box back by the door. If you want to raise your hand, the tellers can bring them around, but it would be helpful if you had those to follow along today. Okay. Good morning. The Constitution and bylaws of our congregation require an annual corporate meeting to be held in January each year. At this meeting, all officers, ministries, and project groups shall present annual reports. Election of officers and lay leaders shall be held, and any other business as necessary shall be transacted in preparation for 2018. According to Article 8 of our bylaws, all meetings of the church shall be conducted according to Robert's Rules of Order. The exception to this will be permitting online participation and voting for this meeting as allowed by the June 2016 revised constitution to our church. In order that parliamentary procedure is followed, I have appointed Michael Higbee as our parliamentary procedures consultant for this meeting. I now call to order the 2018 annual meeting of the First Congregational United Church of Christ of Oconomowoc. I'd like to call upon Pastor Dave to offer our opening prayer and prayer of remembrance. Pastor Dave.
It's my understanding that one of the traditions of our church is that at our January meeting we remember those who have passed away during the previous year. And so, in a spirit of prayer and reflection, I'd like to read these names of our members in alphabetical order who have passed away during this previous year, and then I'll continue with the prayer. We remember Rich Bailing, Earl Engel, Margie Inscore, Sylvia Lang, Jean Neal, Howard Schuneman, Howard Syverson, Michael Todd. I'd like to also include one very special friend that we lost this last year, and that was Bill Jackson. Will you bow with me in prayer, please? I'd like to share with you a prayer that was written by a teacher of mine, Walter Brueggemann, and he would always open his classes up with prayer, and I'd like to share with you one of the prayers that he would say. This is "Move us beyond ourselves." Let us pray. Holy God, who calls the worlds into being, who calls us into Christ's church, we thank you for the church that is our true home, for the mission of the church that is our true joy, and for the ministry of the church that is our proper task. We thank you for the ministry of the church in this place, for pastors and people who over time have named your name and lived your life. We thank you for the ministry of the United Church of Christ, for its steadfastness over time, for its faithful witness in the struggle for justice and peace, and for its durable walk in caring ways. We thank you for the ministry to which you've called the members of our church, for the caring, eloquent ways in which we live into the faith. And we thank you for the many ways of ministry that are faithfully practiced in praise of you out beyond our range of acceptance. For those more radical than us, for those more cautious than us, for those in traditions strange to us, for faith families who care in ways other than our own. We pray this day for all those who stand in need of ministry, for the ill, for the powerful who are bewildered, for the poor and the vulnerable who lack so much of what we take for granted, and for the wounded who wait for relief. We ask for your mighty Spirit to be among us, that we may fully engage our baptism, that we may accept the costs that belong to our life with you, that we may embrace the joys that only you can give. Move us beyond ourselves, our favorite cliches, our tired resentments, our worn habits, to your nearness. Make us light, make us ready, make us open, that we may become a resounding doxology through your passion and into your victory. We pray in Jesus the crucified, the Lord of the church. Amen. Can I make just a couple of comments? Is that okay? Thank you. Thank you. Is Jeff Van Dam here? Okay, I will get him next week then. I wanted to lift him up to you, folks. I wanted to say thank you to just a couple of people, and I do so. Please forgive me if I don't thank someone else that I should, but I think there's a couple folks I really want to take time to mention. Jeff and Lynn joined 25 years ago. For the last 24 years, they have served on a ministry team every year, and this is the first year that Jeff is taking off and not serving on a ministry team. So for 24 straight years of service, I just want to say thank you to him and to Lynn for that type of commitment to our church. And that, so I hope when you see him that you will thank him for that. I'd also like to say a word of thanks to the fellow that's standing here to my left. John has done an excellent job of serving as our moderator the last 2 years. He's been a wonderful leader, a good example. He has helped me to get off to a good start with you as your pastor, and I'm very appreciative of that. But John has also served, I believe this is correct, the last 8 years on leadership. And through some very turbulent times and through some very challenges, very big challenges that our church has faced. And he's done so with a lot of grace and wisdom. And I just want to thank him for his leadership here before we begin today. Thank you, John. With that, I'll be quiet.
All active members of the congregation are eligible to fully participate in today's meeting. Visitors are welcome to this meeting, but are requested to refrain from direct participation. All church members who are present are requested to confirm their presence for the record by signing one of the attendance sheets that are being circulated. Online participants have been asked to email or text their online participation to Amy Drua. We apparently did an upgrade. Okay, we did an upgrade yesterday, and our first, at the service this morning, we were having trouble with our webcast, but apparently it is working now, so we're glad to get that back up and going again. According to Article 8 of our bylaws, 10% of the stated active membership shall constitute a quorum to transact business at a meeting of the church. The stated membership as of this date is 437. Therefore, I call upon our church clerk, Rochelle Bailing, to verify we have at least 44 members present. This number would include church members who are streaming this meeting. So.
We have
67 in attendance and 1 streaming. So we do have a quorum. Also, I'd like to identify those who have agreed to serve as tellers for this meeting. It'll be Patty Ewald, Chris Mall, and Bill Johnson. If any member has a question or comment, just raise your hand and the tellers will come to you with a microphone. Please remember to always state your name when you speak so that we will have an accurate record. And please use the microphone so that our webcast this meeting will record your comments. And now if you turn to your annual meeting booklet. Dave, you took mine. The minutes of the 2017 annual meeting are printed in the annual report booklet on pages 1 through 9. So if you turn to those pages. Are there any corrections, additions, or deletions to be made to the minutes of the 2017 annual corporate meeting? The minutes of the May 7th, 2017 congregational meeting is printed on in the annual report booklet on pages 9 through 13. Are there any corrections, additions, or deletions to be made to the minutes of the May 7th, 2017 congregational meeting? And finally, the minutes of the October 29th, 2017 congregational meeting is printed in the annual report book on pages 13 through 19. Are there any corrections, additions, or deletions to be made to the minutes of the May 7th, 2017 congregational meeting? I would now accept a motion to approve the minutes from the 2017 annual meeting, the May 7th, 2017 congregational meeting, and the October 29th, 2017 congregational meeting. Please state your name if you make a motion or second so that we have it for the record. Is there a motion? Lois Jackson, and is there a second? Trudy Muris. We'll get you. We'll get you. Let's see. If you are participating online, now is the time to email or text your yes vote if you're in favor of the motion number 1 on your no vote. If you are opposed to the motion, again, that should be emailed or texted to Amy Drua. All in attendance here in favor of the motion to approve the minutes from the 2017 annual meeting, the May 7th, 2017 congregational meeting, and the October 29th, 2017 congregational meeting, please say aye. Any opposed, say nay. The motion is carried. Online votes will be added to the official record. The Treasurer's Report for 2017 is found in the annual meeting booklet on pages 36 through 40. The Co-Treasurer, Jim Natalizio, will present this report. So, Jim? I guess Bill's coming up too? Bill Palm. Or no? Bill's just here for support.
So I know what you're thinking, right? Every time I come up here, I got bad news. I always have to give bad news. Grim Reaper, right? Wrong. I'm going to start out the way Franz started out and the way Dave started out, by thanking people. I'd first like to thank all of the ministries for doing such a great job of managing their expenses and coming in under budget. I want to thank all the folks that stuck to their pledge and gave their pledge, or anybody that unpledged gave and stuck to their commitments. I would like to thank all of the fundraisers, all the people that worked on the fundraisers, all the people that participated in the fundraisers, and all that contributed to the fundraisers, because we had a great year. And guess what? We had a little profit. Woohoo! Not too much to really discuss on the items that are on there. There's a couple of bigger items on page 36, by the way. In the leadership section, the pastor pension fund and the pastor insurance benefits. The pastor insurance benefits, that was an error on the budget committee. We get started on the budget in October-ish, and we start putting a guesstimate or rough estimate in the budget. Then we get some actual numbers that come in, and we got the actual insurance costs that came in right toward the end of the year for 2017, and we failed to update the budget to include that amount. But for those of you that think two wrongs don't make a right, we also paid the 2017 first installment on the pension in 2016. So that piece didn't come into the budget in 17, even though it was kind of a 2017 expense. So if you see those two items there, they pretty much cancel each other out. So two wrongs in this case did make a right. Other than that, the other really big over budget expense was leased equipment in the 5,000 section, just a little bit above that. That really isn't an over budget. It was a change in the copy company. So we had a cancellation charge, but the new company paid that. So you'll see up above in income 41750. They actually paid $1,600 to us. We counted it as income, but really it was them trying to eliminate that extra expense that we had. So it's not anywhere near as bad as it looks. Other than that, pretty much things came in as planned. Any questions on anything? We have an online question, right? No, we do. I got it anyway. One of the things that in the report, they talk, Godstock was in the report as having a profit of $400, I don't remember what it was, $450 or something like that. In the actual treasurer's report, it's 250 something. The actual is the 250. There was some expenses, I think, that weren't quite recorded yet at the time whoever wrote that report put it out. So the treasurer's report is the correct one. Also, another online question. Thank you, Amy, for that. On page 38, there was a question on the income 4,400 and 44,150 that are not reflected in that total of 4,500. So you can see the $104 for 4,400 or 44,000. The $8,502 in 44,150 are not reflected in that total 27,115. That's because they're separate accounts. The online question was saying it looks like those should be included in that 4,500, but if you look at it, the indention of 44,500 means it's a sub-account of the 45,000. The other two are not sub-accounts. Those are their own accounts. So that would pull straight down to the total. So the question was, why don't they reflect in that 4,500 total of 2715? It's because they're not sub-accounts. Any other online questions, Amy? Okay, good. All right.
I will now accept a motion to accept the 2017 report of the treasurer, Christina Higbee, and is there a second? Somebody. Okay, George Moeller. We'll go George. You'd be surprised how your names just all of a sudden just go completely blank up here. If you are participating online, now is the time to email your text or text your yes vote if you are in favor of motion number 2, or your no vote if you are opposed to the motion. All in attendance in favor of the motion to accept the treasurer's report as printed, please say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The motion is carried. Online votes will be added to the official record. For the record, on behalf of the entire congregation, I'd like to thank Jim and Bill Palm for their excellent work on our behalf as our co-treasurers this year. They were ably supported and assisted by our office manager, Betty Jo Zamborski, and our new bookkeeper, Cindy Wellman. So thank you to both of you. The leadership team had hoped to have the 2017 review of the church's financial records completed for this meeting, but that has not been accomplished. That review will be completed by no later than the spring congregational meeting, but those results will be sent to the congregation via email and the branches as soon as they are known. The 2017 books have just recently been closed, and the review team, consisting of Paul Geraldson and Katie Stevens, will need ample time to do the review of the financial records of the church. This review will be completed using the guidelines implemented, using the recommendations of the accounting firm of Winter Coleman Financial Advisors, and formally presented at the spring congregational meeting. After last fall's congregational meeting, the leadership team had a number of discussions regarding the timing of the review and the election of our church co-treasurers. We even had a proposed constitutional change prepared to move the treasurer election to the spring congregational meeting and adjust the treasurer term of office accordingly. After much discussion, including discussion of the procedures to remove a church officer from office if problems were discovered, the decision was made to leave the Constitution as it is for now, with additional discussion on the topic to continue. Are there any questions or comments concerning this matter? Anybody? Again, we will have, our leadership team will have further discussion on this, and again, whether a constitutional change is made or what their recommendation will be, we'll have to decide. The printed reports of the senior pastor, the director of children and youth ministries, the Wisconsin conference minister, the moderator and leadership team, the historian, and the clerk can be found on pages 20 through 35 in your booklet. The printed reports of the 6 ministries, Craft Fest and Vendor Fair, Caring Connections, the golf outing, the Hearts and Hands Christian Preschool, the Personnel Committee, and the Landscape Committee, the Script Program, and the Planned Giving Committee, the Memorial Fund, and Memorial Garden Committee are found on pages 41 through 55 in the annual report booklet. I hope you have taken time to read these reports, for they're very informative. I'm ready now to receive a motion to accept all these printed reports found in the annual meeting booklet. You have a question or? Okay.
Well, you have to have a motion first.
We have to have a motion first, Mike, so would somebody like to make that? Okay, Dick Protzman makes the motion. Is there a second? Marty Wiley is second. Okay, now is there any discussion? Mike.
Here we go. I have a question in regards to reading the balance of the Memorial Garden Annual Report
I'm sorry, what page are you on?
on page 55.
Page 55.
Yeah.
Okay.
The last paragraph, the balance is in the checking account at the beginning of the year was 54, and we had a total of debt loans of $7,300 to the Memorial Fund and one of our members on the committee. No debt was paid in 2017. The checking balance was $12,000 at the end of the year. $8,000 was made up in general use funds, and $39,000 or approximately $4,000 for maintenance funds. That's kind of confusion. Maintenance funds. What, number one, what did they use in the maintenance funds?
George, would you answer that, or?
I'm not sure exactly. The reason why there's more money at the end of the year than there was at the beginning of the year, that 5,400 went up, was because of the plots that we had sold to church members during the year. We're obligated by our rules. Whenever we sell a plot, for example, if we sell a $2,000 half plot, 10% of that $2,000 goes into general maintenance. 15% of that $2,000 goes into an endowment fund for long-term maintenance of the garden, and the balance, or $1,500, goes into the general fund. That's why there's 2 checking accounts. Is that?
My question. Big question. Hello? Big question was the $4,000 for maintenance. What exactly do you maintain?
We have to maintain the garden. We mow it, we plant, we may build another wall with that money.
Okay, in other words, that money, does that keep on going up, or?
Every time we sell a plot, 15% goes into the general. Yes, it keeps going up every time we sell a plot.
That's all my question is. I'm sitting there wondering with the maintenance, and I sit there and I mow almost every week, and the garden doesn't get mowed at times. I mean, it's atrocious at times.
Are there any other discussions or questions concerning the printed reports? Anybody else? If you are participating online, now is the time to email your text your yes vote if you're in favor of motion number 3, or your no vote if you're opposed to the motion. All those in attendance in favor of the motion to accept all the printed reports on pages 20 through 35 and 41 through 55, please say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The motion is carried. Online votes will be added to the official record. Again, on behalf of us all, I would like to thank the officers, ministries, committees, and project groups, and all the staff for their fine work, and thank you for all those responsible for these printed reports. Article 10, Part A of the Church Constitution, under the heading Leadership Team, states the leadership team shall submit to the annual meeting a comprehensive program stating the goals of the church for our coming year. To this end, the leadership team has presented their goal found on page 56 of the annual meeting booklet. So if you turn to page 56, the overall goal is to support and hold accountable each ministry in their goals they set as First Congregational UCC of Oconomowoc moves forward to nurture healthy growth and increase participation in the life of the congregation. The 5 sub-goals are based on the continuation of the work of the Church Security and Safety Project Group and the Long Range Planning Committee. Going forward, each of the ministries will begin with their new personnel groupings in February. They will be asked to create goals that support these overall goals of the church for the new year, and these goals will be presented as part of our spring congregational meeting. Is there any discussion regarding the leadership goal or programs as stated on page 56? You're making it awful easy here. Okay. Again, our Constitution does not call for a vote on this. These are the overall goals of the church based on primarily the Long Range Planning Committee's work and the Church Security and Safety Project Group. We'll be moving forward with many of their recommendations and programs as part of our goals for next year. The report of the nominating committee can be found on the back of your booklet on pages 57 and 58. Deb Groskopf is not able to be here due to a funeral she's attending this weekend, and I missed seeing Trudy Murris before. So, Trudy, were you ready, or should I just present that? Or Deb said to ask you, and I forgot to didn't get a chance to see you.
Trudy Mears, I just want to thank everyone who was kind enough to accept the position. We were busy during the months prior to this. We are thrilled, really thrilled to have a full slate. There is only one spot missing, and that is on the nominating committee, but all of the rest of the positions are filled for the coming year, and I would like to thank, on behalf of us, those who accepted those positions. Thank you.
Amy?
On behalf of a text-in question about the leadership goals, they were wondering what has been done to the last 2 items on the list, the soccer league and the addiction. What have you guys started anything? Have you?
Just a question about the last 2 goals.
Mm-hmm.
This is a question from Maggie Hollis, I'm assuming. Mm-hmm. And again, it's just taking a little time to get some of these to come through. But Maggie's asking about the continued support for the development of our youth soccer league for youth with disabilities. Pastor Dave, if you want to add on to this, you can, but we had hoped to do that this past fall, but due to some timing and just some other issues, the program didn't get underway. We've continued our talks with the YMCA, with the school district as far as some of their students that might participate in this program, and we're hoping that we can get this program started this spring sometime. Again, we have a number of different volunteers. I know Mike Maloney has been real involved with this, and we appreciate all the work that they've done along with Pastor Dave, but we're still hoping we can find something and get that going this spring. So anything else to add to that? And then for the continue to search for ways to minister to those affected by the addiction crisis, we had hoped to get a more full-blown program going. The amount of interest in developing this and people willing to work on a committee for that has kind of been lacking. And so we decided to leave that as part of our goal for the next year, but to adjust a little bit to work to seek for ways to affect those by addiction crisis. And again, Pastor Dave is working on this. We have several other people. Randy Dempsey, I think, is another one that has been real helpful as far as getting information, and we're looking at more of an education program at this point, I think, But again, we're looking for, if you're interested in working on this goal for the next year, please contact Fritz Steinke is our new moderator, or will be in a little bit, and or any of the members of the leadership team, and we'll try and get that going also. Anything else that you want to add?
Just to reiterate in a way what John said, we're not giving up on it as a priority. There is such a need for this in our community, and we are trying and seeking through prayer to find out where God's leading us to help with this issue. That since I spoke on it, we've featured the service of the first of the year on this issue. There were approximately 6 or 7 folks that came up that said they want to be as part of a steering team or a committee on that. We will be forming that. There will be special worship services for this throughout the year, and I've also been in contact already with a couple of speakers to try to make it as an educational piece for us too. But I hope you understand, this isn't like just adding on an addition to the building. It's trying to seek to find where God is calling us to help in the community, and that's what we're trying to discern through prayer and reflection as far as how best we can use our gifts and our faith to help those who struggle with this terrible illness and addiction and that. So thank you.
Lois Jackson. There's coming a mic.
Just a notice that was in the newspaper last week that some of the aldermen are now trying to look into a program to have a center for youth. So that might, be able to be of advantage to us in the future for that too. Thank you.
Part of the I don't say problem, I guess the good problem, is that there have been a number of brand new initiatives within the state, within the city, in the county, just with the addiction crisis. And it's tough keeping ahead of all of that and knowing exactly where we're going to best fit in. Christina Higbee.
Speaking to the teen center, I'm actually meeting with one of the aldermen tomorrow morning for coffee to find out a little bit more about that. I know our women's club is interested in doing something with it, and I can bring some information back to the church as well.
And this is the kind of thing we need to just get, again, right now we're more of an information sharing, and if you know of any meetings or things that would be appropriate to let the congregation know about, let the office know, and we can present that and publicize those kinds of things. Any other discussion on that issue before we move back to the nominating? Okay, then our Constitution, back to the nominating page on pages 57 and 58. Our Constitution allows nominations for any of these positions to be made from the floor of the meeting. I would request that you have the consent of the person being nominated before placing the person's name in a nomination. I would remind you that only active members in good standing are eligible to serve in these elected positions. As you can see, we are currently only have one position for the nominating committee to be filled. I would challenge each of you that is not currently serving to consider filling this position if you can. Our church covenant states we covenant together to work with one another and with all Christians to accomplish the will of God on earth. What better way to fulfill this promise than to serve on one of the ministries or committees? With this in mind, are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Sandy Hogan.
I just wanted to bring
Wait for the microphone, please. Okay.
I just wanted to bring something up. I've always been noted for doing this. I noticed that there's a correction needed on the landscaping committee. The last sentence on page 53, it's hanging. It's hanging. I don't believe that the computer answers all as far as proofreading. Anytime you need someone to proofread a document, I would be eligible, but go back and reread the last sentence of the landscaping committee. That's all.
Okay. Again, we can go back in. I think we've voted already to approve the minutes, but I think we can make a correction like that if Ari or Gordon or anybody else from the landscape committee can help Rochelle as far as filling out that sentence. It says, "We are grateful to all the gardeners from the church and other locations as their help is," I'm assuming greatly appreciated would probably be the, greatly appreciated? Sounds good. So Rochelle, if you can make that change there. Okay, now back to the nominees. Okay. At this time, since there are no contested elections, I would entertain a motion that the nominations be closed and the clerk be authorized to cast an electing ballot for all those who have been nominated. Is there a motion? Ann Stoltz, and is there a second? Did you get that? Yeah, Jim, did you get it? Okay. Let's see. If you are participating online, now is the time to email or text your yes vote for vote number 4. If you are in favor of the motion, or your no vote if you are opposed to the motion. All in attendance in favor of the motion to close nominations and to cast an electing ballot for all those who have been nominated, please say aye. All those opposed say nay. The motion is carried. Thank you to all those who have been elected to serve this congregation. The installation of newly elected and continuing lay leaders will be next Sunday, February 4th at both our services, or just the second one?
The second one at 10 o'clock.
Okay, we'll be doing it at the 10 o'clock service next Sunday. So hopefully anybody that's been elected or is continuing, if you could please be in attendance, we'd appreciate that. The Budget Project Group, the Administrative Ministry, and the Leadership Team has prepared a proposed 2018 annual budget to be enacted at this meeting. The proposed budget is found on pages 59 and 60 of your annual meeting booklet. I'd like to call upon Jim Nadlitzio of the Budget Project Group to present our 2018 budget for your consideration.
Sure. One item I wanted to point out, I forgot to earlier. If you go to page 39 on the balance sheet, the very top there, it's got the checking account balance of $77,235.51. So that's how much money we had in the bank available to spend, sort of. Because if you go down to the bottom and it says prepaid pledges, $77,235.51, it's exactly the same number. So we brought the checking account down to 0. So the difference is the line of credit, $10,407, which is right above that prepaid pledges. So we didn't use anything for 2018 in 2017. So I just kind of wanted to point that out because that is our shortfall, that $10,000 that toward the end of the year we run out of money and we take a loan from the bank. So that's exactly the amount right there. So I just wanted to point that out.
And now
back to the budget. So again, I wanted to do one more thank you. And about the end of October, early November, something like that, I came up in front of the congregation at church and said, kind of challenged everyone to say, we really need a 10% increase in the amount of pledged income in order to make our budget. And we pretty much got it. So if we look at what we actually finished the pledges in 2017, it's $299,000. The actual pledge was $304. So if you use 304, we didn't quite get 10%, but if you use the 299, we're at 9.83. So thank you very much for everyone who stepped up, increased their pledges, or new members that added a pledge this year. So thank you very much. There's 2 changes in the budget. The very first item, pledges, it's got $324,000. It should be $328,567.28. For those that want to write that down.
money keeps coming in.
Yes. The other item that changes, if you go to about the middle of the page, capital improvements. This is a fund that we wanted to start this year to pre-plan some big things that are going to be coming, like the parking lot, potentially furnaces, any other big things that we don't know about yet that could damage the budget in future years. We wanted to get a fund going for that. We had hoped to put $15,000 in there, but what we did put in there is $9,465, which is pretty darn good. A couple of things that we changed this year going into 2018. One of the areas that's been very confusing over the years is fundraising for the youth. And we had fundraising for the mission trip, we had fundraising for the youth groups, we had other fundraisers, and it was very hard for the office to keep track of which one is this for, which one is that for. And at the end of the year, we'd always try to get together with Amy and figure out all the different pieces. This year, we're going to simplify it. We're going to put it all in one category. It's going to be youth fundraising. So then we make a check at the end of the year out to the youth checking account, and that's where they pay for all of their youth group events. That's where they pay for their mission trips, etc. So it's one item, and that item is going to be $42,500. So on last year's budget, you can see $42,500, $42,550, and $42,700. We don't have anything in those later entries. Question?
Does that sum then also include the script?
No, script is right above that, which also, you're right, that one also does go to youth, but because that one is its own separate checking account, we just kept that one separate. So that's right above it, $42,400. That's still in there.
I just want to add on to that, Jim, and I'm sorry. A lot of people I hear, why are you always fundraising for these mission trips? Why are you doing so much? The church budget does not support these mission trips. They are fully self-funded through all the fundraisers. So I need to make that clear so you guys know that is why we are constantly fundraising. And it is my goal to make these trips affordable for all the kids who are attending these, if not free, through all the fundraising that they do, to hold them all accountable. So if you have any questions on that, please let me know, but I just want to let you guys know that's why we do so much fundraising.
A couple other changes I wanted to point out. If you go to page 60, in the education ministry, we tried to break that out a little bit more so you knew exactly where the money was going. So education, which this year we're going to try to buy curriculum, which we've avoided for how many years, Amy? Have we avoided buying new curriculum?
I've been creating for the last 3 years.
3 years, so we're out of ideas. We gotta. So we're gonna purchase that. The youth group scholarships, again, we wanted to put in something that we're supporting, something in the budget that we're supporting the youth. So we've got the youth scholarships, we got retreats, and youth group events. So we do have some items in there. And then, like Amy had pointed out, the youth fundraising transfer account, that's just whatever they end up making in that youth fundraising, a check gets cut to them, so it's exactly the same amount. So it doesn't affect our budget at all. So if they only raise $10,000, they only get $10,000 there. If they raise 14, they get 14. So it doesn't affect the budget. It just cancels each other out. One more item you might notice on 60719 Praise Band. We don't have that up in leadership anymore. That is in Spirituality Ministry 70403. It's included in that. We didn't use anything this year, but we kind of bumped up their amount there a little bit, just in case. The budget does include a 2% raise for the staff, except for Amy, who is getting a 3% raise. Let's see, anything else? That's about it. I'll open it up for questions.
I just had one real quick question. Again, right now we have 328,000 plus.
Correct.
As far as pledges that have been made, if additional pledge additional money does come in as far as pledges, and it's been coming in last couple, ever since November. Where will that money go, and who makes the decision as far as where that goes?
Well, like this year, we would have, again, if that expenses came in roughly as pledged, it would go to a profit, which would just stay in the church. So that line of credit, which is minus 10,000 right now, would be reduced. Or if there was something else that the congregation wanted to vote on that we would spend it on.
Or at the end of the year, what we could do is take that amount and add it towards that $15,000 goal we had as far as our major upcoming expenses too. So again, our hope is that we can have that money available, even though we had to reduce it from the 15,000 down to 9,000, was it?
Right,
9,000. We're hoping to build that fund up because we have some major expenses. That the parking lot is
The biggest.
150,000, I think, is what's been estimated. Higher than that, Bob. And we have some, HVAC type of issues that may have to be developed. So we have some. This is a big building, and it has a lot of maintenance issues that we need some funds to do. So hopefully we can start building some of that funds up.
The nice thing about having that capital improvement fund, let's say it ends up being $10,000 at the end of the year, if we still are in that same position with a $10,000 line of credit, we could borrow the money from ourselves instead of borrowing it from the bank, because we only borrow it for that month of December, and then we pay it back right away in January. So we could borrow that from the capital improvement funds and then pay it back right away in January to save the interest expense that the bank charges us. So that would be another benefit of that.
Oops, is it on? Yeah. Thank you. I just have a question. The money that had been donated in Rich Bailing's memory or Bill's memory or any of the others, we now have a new committee, don't we, that will be handling any of that? And if we have any suggestions of what we might want some of that money spent for, who do we go to?
Memorial Fund Committee is the group that will administer that. Again, if the families who the money is donated for have suggestions, they should approach that group, or anybody could approach leadership, or we'd pass that information on. So I believe somewhere they're not on there. But I thought in the Memorial Committee report it did have the kind of the balance sheet of where we're at with that. Gordon?
Hello? Yeah, I'm on the Memorial Fund, and there's 5 of us now. It's just have started that out, and seems like there's a lot of feedback. Joe has told me about the money that was put aside for Bill and Rich, and we definitely want input on that, and so we're holding that in reserve. But the Memorial Fund from going forward will be making recommendations on how this money will be divvied up, but we welcome input at any time. So we're just kind of be working with Joe and Pastor Dave on that also. So
if you look in your annual report booklet on page 54, there is a list of people who money has been donated in memory of, and gives a beginning and ending balance for 2017. So it shows $9,858.90 in that fund right now. So again, if we have projects, we've got that money available for in memory of those different people. Can you get Peg, Peg McCollum?
I have a question. The other night, I was driving to the church, and I turned too soon because there's no sign in front of our church that tells we're even here in the evening. And I walk by these churches, or drive by these churches and see these wonderful signs. I know it's expensive, but if there's some way we could let people know we're here after dark, it would sure help.
George Moeller? I know this has been a pet project of yours, George, for we've made attempts to check that or change it?
I'm not on the administrative ministry now, or it was not last year, but you're right, this has been an ongoing issue. There's a short circuit between the upper pole and the lower pole. You'll notice that the lower pole is not lit at night, and power from the lower pole goes under the driveway over to the sign to illuminate the sign. Administrative ministry, I know, is working on and intends to trench a new wire in the spring when it's thawed from the upper pole to the lower pole to provide power. When that happens, we'll have the signs in the front lit as well as that lower pole lit. We can't do it effectively until things thaw out. So they're aware of the problem.
Sally Burdick, speaking of the sign, is there any way we could have a fancier sign or have the neighbors complain that it's too bright? You know, like a lot of the churches have the signs that are the new kinds of signs that read as you go along.
Leadership has talked about this very briefly. Again, it's one of those things where I don't know if the neighbors necessarily would, have any questions or comments. It would probably be an issue with the city as far as getting permits for any additional signage we would put up. Again, it's expensive, but it is something we can look into. Again, if you go around to some of the other churches, they do have the fancier lighted or neon type of signs, and they are very, they're very bright. Again, is this the image that we want to present to our church, for our church? Again, these are discussions we need to have, so we can continue that. Gordon?
I think it might be worthwhile looking into a different kind of sign. I don't propose a really bright lit up sign, but right now, like Pat complains to me that the bushes are too tall so you can't see the preschool sign. So we can kind of cut those down, but that's way at the bottom. But then also we have the billboards we put out there, periodically during the year, and they kind of get in the way of the lawnmower and they get tipped over and stuff. But so if we had a nicer sign, that could just be on that sign. So it might be something that we look into as a special project, because it might be something somebody would be willing to come up with. But I would agree that we'd want to keep it somewhat modest and not real gaudy.
So that could be an example of something that someone would go to the Memorial Fund potentially to do or to request. It could also be something that would be in the capital improvements potentially down the road as well. So,
one of the things I would like to say, though, is that before a project is put into place for the Memorial Fund, we have several different steps that goes through, including going to leadership and if there's any other affected committees, so that we want to make sure that, first of all, the priorities of the church are met, but secondly, that they are appropriate for, whatever type of addition might be made, that it be appropriate with the whole image that our church is trying to present. So there are some steps that kind of go. You can't just say, I want to put, a tree in the middle of the parking lot or something like that. It may not be.
Although it would be beautiful. Okay, thank you.
I would now entertain a motion to adopt the annual budget for 2018. Is there a motion to that effect? Jim? Okay, and is there a second? Lois Jackson? Is there any other further discussion on the budget? Mike Hoff.
Yep. I have a question, and Jim might have answered this before, but with the pastor's pension fund, for the actual, I'm looking at the proposed budget, actual is 2,800, or I gotta take my glasses off, hang on here.
Page 59.
Page 59.
Page 59, he's talking about number
60105. It states the actual is 8,500 and the proposed is 11,000. Why are we jumping up 25%?
Go ahead. Okay. That was the one that we talked about, or I talked about in the last one, where we paid early in 2016. There was really one more payment that should have been in 17, but it was expensed in 2016.
Okay, so in other words, like say the payment was $2,000 then or
Right.
something. Okay.
Right. Yep.
Okay, I said I wasn't listening.
And again, some of those numbers we put into the budget as far as what we anticipate the amounts will be, but then every once in a while insurance costs go up or other things go up, and we have to make adjustments as they come. So those are our best estimates as far as what it will be for 2018. Any other discussion? Okay. If you are participating online, now is the time to email or text your yes vote for vote number 5 if you're in favor of the motion, or your no vote if you're opposed to the motion. All in attendance in favor of the motion to adopt the 2018 budget, please say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The motion is carried. Online votes will be added to the official record. Is there any other new business to discuss? Pastor Dave.
Just to share with you, I want to say a word of thanks to Joe Lyman and his kids, and to Jay Stouse and to Jim Sajak. They changed every light in our sanctuary for us. The larger chandeliers have, I believe there's like 7 light bulbs in each of those, and they did an incredible amount of work, so we want to say thank you. The center ones aren't changed yet, I'm sorry. But the amazing thing is that we tried to do a little bit of math. With the old light bulbs, we were using 23,000 kilowatts per hour to light the sanctuary. With the new LED bulbs that they put in, they're using 3,000 watts. And that will reduce, we were guessing, our electric bill by about $80 just by changing those light bulbs. And so I just want to say a word of thanks to them for that. And we appreciate what they did.
From 140 every Sunday down to about 35.
140 down to $35. So that's even more of a savings. That's wonderful. That's good stewardship, and it's also good for the environment. So we thank you for that. It kind of bothered me pulling in this morning. I don't know if the others of you notice it, but if you look at our driveway going out to the front, there's a house on the right that seems to like to use our churchyard as a way to turn around from their driveway and to drive through our churchyard to go out our driveway. It's leaving ruts through the yard. That's also going right across the electric wire that lights out the outdoor sign. So I'm going to be walking over there and ask them nicely and politely to please stop driving through our yard, and that the churchyard is also private property, and ask them just to be respectful of that. If anybody wants to go with me, you're more than welcome. I would appreciate the backup. So thank you.
Otherwise, get off the meals.
Yeah.
I'll go with you, Dave.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Any other comments before we? Okay.
Joan Robbins. Oh, that sounded terrible. Joan Robbins. That's better. I have a question in regards to entering the church on Sunday mornings. I am an usher. I'm also a choir member, and I have conveniently parked up top, and now we're being told no longer. And I just wonder what the problem is, and if there have been some changes made, I think the whole church should be told about it. And I think sometimes the communication needs to be improved.
I can, I guess, speak to this, and maybe I can, if Bill Seymour's here. I'm not sure if Bill is or not, but maybe you can. The Church Security and Safety Project Group has made a number of recommendations to leadership and to the administrative ministry regarding some changes to improve the security of our building. With many of the recent church shootings that have been going on, there have been additional concerns about making sure our church is a safe and secure place for us to worship, but at the same time trying to maintain that welcoming atmosphere that we all want. I can share with you, for instance, that the Conemaugh Police over the holidays was issued a potential warning that there were groups that were looking to disrupt churches and possibly have violence, so that they were doing several different drive-throughs of our parking lot on Sunday mornings. Most of you are not aware of this. That wasn't intention for them to make it aware, but they wanted to make sure that their presence was known. Several of the changes that we've talked about and looked at are keeping our doors locked and limiting access to our church until we have people here. And so we have a Wake Up the Church person each Sunday morning that opens up the church, unlocks things. The choir, bell choirs, many of the early people do come in through the lower entrance, and so that entrance is open, but then later on is locked so that people cannot have access to the Sunday school area. The upper door here, again, probably is remaining locked. It may be that the church person that's opening the church just forgot to open it up. So, again, it's being left locked until, Tim, what time? You know?
In general, what it comes down to is Tim Schuyler. So when the person who's waking up the church, when they come in, there's a process. They come in through the downstairs, they have to disarm, and then they go through and start the process of turning on the lights. The one door that's left open is downstairs, and that's where we're asking people to come in the morning. We leave the door upstairs locked until more people have arrived. We really don't want it open until there's someone who is out in the fellowship hall that can monitor who's coming in. Now you can say it's difficult to monitor who's coming in from downstairs, but if you're making a choice of which entrance is going to be available for people to come in, the decision was made for the lower level. Once you have people that are showing up in the church and attending to other tasks, we open this up pretty readily. So it's usually open always at least 30 minutes before service, usually faster than that. Like I said, if I'm opening, or whoever's waking up the church, if sometimes they're doing other things, if they're working in the AV or whatever, it's hard for them to sit out here and monitor because they're trying to get other things accomplished. So it really comes to when people are showing up that we open the upstairs
Tim, just
door.
so you are aware, the choir is expected to be here a half an hour before, ready to go, which means we get here then at 7:45, 20 minutes to 8. I'm talking about the senior choir. And then also for the ushers, I'm here 45 minutes before because, like today, we had people come early. I mean, there's always something happening. And as an usher, I feel responsible to be here to explain what's going on, go get coffee, whatever. I just thought that it should be told to all of us, like today would have been a good day to do this, to talk about this.
And I think it's something we need to have continued discussion about. I know leadership has been talking and just, has a hard time, if we want to lock the doors downstairs, people need to be able to get in and out. Do we have to have somebody sitting down there by the door to let people in that are known? Again, it's an issue that is ongoing. One of the things we're looking at is once we have a comprehensive safety report that's been sent to leadership and to administrative ministry. Once that's finalized, we're looking at presenting that as a whole package to the congregation. We're looking at doing training for our head ushers and other ushers. We've even talked about our congregation doing a fire drill or a type of an emergency drill where we actually evacuate Sunday morning services some Sunday, just so people know where to go. How many of you are not aware that you can get out of the church through the front? Is everybody aware of that? That you can go out the sides here, and there is a door at the middle of the sacristy that then goes down to the lower level, and there is an outside door, then you can get out of the church if there would ever be a need to get out that way, where that area in the back would be blocked. Those are the kinds of things that we're trying to make sure we let people know about. And then unfortunately, we're in that type of society where we have to be aware, and we're trying to make, again, some changes without making it seem like we're not welcoming. Amy, you had some comments?
Just a new matter here, if we're done discussing this one. Maggie Hollis just wants to give a big thank you to all those who do the video and streaming to make it available for her and allow her to still participate and watch while she's away.
She also emailed us this morning when it didn't work, so she lets us know.
And it's very nice. So thank you to all who make this possible.
Any other, yes?
Cheryl Hoff, just jumping back to the door discussion. If this door is unlocked, is there a problem with us coming in?
No.
It's really a timing thing for who is waking up the church and when they can. It's just a timing thing of when the person who's waking up the church either has the time or feels comfortable that they can. If I'm, like I said, if I'm downstairs turning on lights, I don't want this door open where I can't be aware of who's entering the church.
And I understand that. I'm just asking because I was approached because one Sunday I came in through that door, and I didn't unlock it.
No, once the upper door is unlocked, feel free to park up here. So it's sort of that who's the first car in the parking lot is your indicator. If there's a car that's there, most likely the door is open and someone's entered from that door. Yeah. Then you're taking your chances.
The doors back by the kitchen, however, do remain locked all during Sunday morning, so that one will be locked. Any other comments or questions? We've reached the conclusion of our annual meeting for 2018. Before I entertain a motion to adjourn the annual corporate meeting of the congregation, I just want to say that it's been an honor to serve as your moderator for the past 3 years. I first joined the leadership team back in 2012 when Mike Daney was moderator. Our church was facing a number of issues resulting in a number of very long leadership team meetings, some approaching midnight. In 2013, Mike Russell took over as moderator and led us through additional challenges, including the resignation of Associate Pastor Lisa Schmatzhagen, the retirement of Senior Pastor Stephen Welch, and the hiring of Pastor Joe Beth Marshall as interim pastor. When I took over as moderator in 2015, we were in the midst of doing the search for our new pastor, resulting in the calling of Reverend Dr. David Schnepp on November 1st, 2015. It has been my honor to work with Pastor Dave these past few years and see the healing, growth, and the introduction of new programs that has happened under his guidance. I know that as I leave as your moderator, that I leave a church that is in good hands with Pastor Dave, Fred Steinke as your new moderator, and a great group of dedicated people as your leadership team. This is a wonderful church with many, many dedicated members, and I see great things for First Congregational in the future. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn immediately following the closing prayer by Pastor Dave. Is there a motion? Mike Hoff. Is there a second? Cheryl Hoff. We'll do the Hoff twins. Is there any discussion? If you are participating in the online, now is the time to email your text your yes vote for vote number 6 if you are in favor of the motion, or your no vote if you're opposed to a motion. All in favor and attendance of the motion to adjourn the meeting following the closing prayer by Pastor Dave, please say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The motion is carried. Online votes will be added to the official record. Pastor Dave, would you please lead us in a closing prayer?
Will you bow with me, please? Lord, we offer our sincere thanks for this church, for the beautiful grounds and building that you've given us to enjoy. Help us to be good stewards as we take care of it, maintain it. And may we use it in ways that helps to share the message of your love and grace for all people. We thank you for these people, the friends and members of our church, those who commit themselves, the time that they give, their finances, their talents to the ministry of this church. We thank you for the rich diversity of our members and the skills that you've given us. Keep each of us faithful as we share the gifts and the talents that we have in your ministry. We thank you, Lord, for this church's ministry in the community, for the ways in which we can reach out to others and to share your love. We ask now your blessing upon this church and upon each and every one of us. Bless us as we go forth as disciples of Jesus Christ. For it's in his name that we pray. Amen.
Thank you all for coming. We are adjourned.